Hello, I'm Chinumen Namdi. In this video, we are going to learn about the Angular at switch control flow syntax. This at switch control flow syntax was introduced in the latest Angular version 17. So first, let's zoom our VS Code so that we can see the code proper. Now, this at switch control flow syntax is used to render a section of a UI based on the value of a logical expression being passed to it. Now, first, let's see how it works. Now, first, we use the at symbol, then we'll write switch, then followed by parentheses, then braces. Now, inside this parentheses is where we add the logical expression that we want to evaluate. Now, we add the expression. Now, we now start adding our case clauses. Now, this case clauses starts by the at case. Now, inside this case block, we will pass a value in between these parentheses. Now, this value is what the case block will check against whatever the switch evaluates from its logical expression. Now, if this value matches the value from this switch logical expression, then this case block will render. Now, if we pass through here, we know that the switch block or the switch control flow syntax is sending in true. So this block case true will execute because the value evaluated from this expression is true. So therefore, the value passed into this case is true. So this case block will execute. If we pass in here false here, then it will not execute because the switch statement already has a value true being evaluated. Now, if the value here is a string true, then this will not execute because it contains a string false. Now, to explain this proper, let's have a variable here. Like, let's say it's 0. Now, we'll come here and put the counter. Now, here, this switch syntax will evaluate this counter and execute any case block whose value matches the value from the expression here. So now, let's say we have something like this. Now, this case block will execute if the counter here is 0. Now, we can also add many case blocks like this. Now, this case block will execute if the value of this counter is 90. So you see now in this case, the counter is 0. So only this case block will be executed. Now, let's put some element inside it. Now, let's say counter is 0, h1. Now, let me copy it and add for here. Now counter is 90. Now, if we save this, you'll see that counter is 0 will be rendered because this counter is 0, and now this case block will be executed because the value inside it 0 matches the evaluation in this statement logical expression. Now, this case 90 will not be executed because its value 90 does not match the value from the switch logical expression. If we change this to 90, now this case block will be executed. So we will now see its element counter is 90 here. So because the counter is 90, so this case block will be executed. So we can see that the switch statement is now used to execute conditions if we have, or it is possible that we have more than 2 conditions. So we will use the switch case control flow syntax. Now, if you pass something like 900 here, now nothing is rendered because none of the case blocks here matched the value of the counter, which is 900 in this case. Then how do we remedy this? Angular introduced the at default clause. Now, this at default clause will execute if none of the case block matches the value of the switch logical expression. Now, this default block will execute. So now, in this case, we will now say so whatever we have inside this default will be executed. So you see now, in this case, this at default block will be executed. That's why we get the template, no case block matched. So this is in general, or in simple terms, how the switch syntax works in Angular. So it kind of like resembles the switch statement we have in JavaScript. So this and this and what we have here, they are the same thing in syntax. So you see, coming from JavaScript and other programming languages, you see that this resembles what we do in day to day or what we see normally. Yeah. So this arch switch control flow syntax replaced the traditional ng switch, the ng switch like this. So it replaced it, now making it more concise, readable, and also understandable. If we want to use the ng switch built-in directive, we will first have to import it. Sorry, this should be imports, not import, but imports. Then we'll now write ng switch here. So then we'll save. Now this is because the ng switch is a standalone component. So standalone components, before they are being used in another standalone component, we have to import them in the imports array. Now let's convert this to use the ng switch traditional method. Now to do that, we have imported the ng switch. Now we need to import the ng switch case and also the ng switch defaults, because they are all standalone components. Now first, we have to wrap this around ng container. We have to wrap all of them around ng container. Then here we will now say at ng switch, we will now pass the counter. So first, now we have dealt with this switch. Now we remove it. Now let's deal with this one, ng switch case. For this case, so we use ng switch case. So they are all directives. That's why they are all structural directives. That's why we are using the asterisk command here. So we use the ng switch case. Now say for case 0. Now we are done with this one. We remove it. Now let's do for case 90. Now we do for case 90. We are done. We remove it. Then let's do for default. ng switch default. Now this one will render our default case that we have, so that when any of the case works, then it can only render. So we'll have it here. I think we have a problem. Okay, I think the problem is, I found it is from here. We don't need to use the asterisk, so we just need to use the square brackets. Then we save. Then you see it works. Now this default case block is rendered because the counter is 900. So you see how we can use ng switch in the traditional way. Now look at how it looks. Now if you compare it against the new at switch control flow, you will see that the at switch control flow, the new one, is much more intuitive, simpler to learn, understand, and write, and also it looks more than a plain JavaScript. So this traditional way of writing is kind of looks strange, and it's very hard to understand and kind of like complex to implement, because see here, you first need to add the ng container, then the ng switch, this, and adding these blocks and also the asterisks makes it very hard for beginners to understand, and also even advanced developers sometimes find it hard to implement ng switch, because we don't use it in our normally day to day, because mostly it's mostly if and else that we mostly use. So using this ng switch traditional method kind of poses a lot of problems for developers. Then imagine then adding switch default again. Then you might forget that you don't need a value there, and also the asterisk makes it very complex, a little bit of complex. So, and also the extra import, yes, the extra imports that I need to do, because now ng switch, ng case, ng switch default are now standalone components. And also someone might mistakenly be using switch down here, and they might forget that you will need extra switch case for each case block, and also an extra switch default component for the default block. So you see it's kind of a bit complex to use and also to understand. Now let's convert back our code to use the new switch control flow. Now first, simply see how it's done. We just remove this entire section, then add our switch, then we add this counter inside the parentheses, open the braces, then remove this, close the braces. Now let's deal with the first block. First, to add our closing brace. Now we remove this case. We know already is 0, so we come here and add case 0. We close, then open our brace. This one is done. We remove this. We know it's 90. Let's copy it. Now here we'll write at case. We'll write 90, open brace. Then here we close brace. Then we'll remove this ng switch default. Come here and write default, open brace, and close brace. Now you see everything works. So you see how simpler it looks. Yes, how simpler it looks and very easy to understand. Then we are not yet done. Remove the imports. We are no longer using them, so we remove it, and now we can use our program like this. Very intuitive, easy to understand, and easy to use and learn. So simple, you can understand what is happening here. The case block is rendered very similar like we have in JavaScript. So you can see it, but so similar. So I see now this is not similar to what we have when we use the traditional ng switch case and ng default style. So that's what this new control flow brings to Angular. It makes writing Angular components very easy, and also very easy to learn for new beginners, and also very easy to implement for advanced beginners. There is no need for extra imports or for any extra code or for any strange asterisks, or to import 3 components just to use the switch feature in our Angular templates. Now this is the end of this video lesson. I hope you understood everything about this new @switch control flow syntax, then how it works, and also how to set the case blocks, and then how to set the default block. So go ahead and like this video, comment on it if you find anything intriguing or confusing, or you just want any question to be answered. You can comment on this video, and also you can reach out to me on my email at codevanga40@gmail.com or at Twitter at @ngarchangel. Please like and share this video, and also subscribe. Watch out for more content like this. Thank you.